You know, a thought just popped into my head. Is it only the South that has minorities? Are there no minorities in the northern part of the country that are clamoring also for some level of change?
Well, thank you very much. Briefly before I answer that question, or let me just go to the question you have just asked. Yes, there are minorities in the north, but to answer fully and globally that question which my two colleagues have raised over struggle for power and struggle for resources, which is the fundamental issue confronting Nigeria of the 21st century, is this. If you look at the pace of development in the country, the most developed part of Nigeria is the southwest. And what is the basis of that development? Is simply because the southwest elite, since the time of Obafemi Awolowo, the southwest elite has invested massively in education and training. There's no oil in southwest. What does this mean, or what does it portend to the entire Nigerian Federation? It simply means this, that most of the issues we are discussing, most of the issues of development, most of the issues on underdevelopment, malnutrition, begging, kidnapping, stealing, name it, will only be fundamentally reduced if all the federating states spend a chunk of their resources on education and training of its citizens.
Yeah, someone will tell you that they're building schools.
No, it's not enough. It's not, sir. It's not enough. The success story of South Korea must teach us an important lesson. In 1960, South Korea was at this, in fact, in 1960, after we got an independence, South Korea was underdeveloped compared to Nigeria in 1960. What do we have today? South Korea is the fourth or the fifth most developed economy in the world. What is the source of that success? The source of that success is that the South Korean elite, South Korea is also very diverse ethnically. South Korea elite decided that they must spend about 40% of the resources of the country for education and training. And what is the result of that today? Samsung, LG, Daewoo. Because in South Korea, education and training has been financed to the point that we are not talking of South Korea as a success story in the third world. Nigeria has that resources. Nobody should tell us that we don't have that resources. What has happened is that the Nigerian leaders, the Nigerian elite, have refused to accept the fact that in this 21st century, that is driven by knowledge economy. Please note that word, knowledge economy. It simply means that the state must, as a right, as a duty to all Nigerians, invest massively in education and training. 40% of the state resources in this country can be invested in education and training. What will be the implication of that? The implication of that is that you have a large portion of Nigerians who are educated, who know their rights, to the point that what my colleague has said, local government chairmen in some parts of the country and in other parts of the country anyway, only come to meetings and share the revenue that is coming from Abuja. It will never happen if vast majority of Nigerians are educated, because they would not be aware of their right to say, look, gentlemen, we have read it on the internet, we have read it in the newspapers, that X amount of money is in the coffers. Can you explain how you have spent it? But if you don't have a mass large of Nigerians who know how to read and write via education and training, these ills we are discussing will continue to be part of a permanent problem. So it is important that in this century that is being driven by knowledge economy, everybody must. We have the resources for everybody to go to school. Let me state this. When you see taxi drivers, you see beggars on the road, you see touts on the road, those are potential engineers, those are potential mathematicians, those are potential doctors. If they are given the opportunity through education and training, they'll be better than all of us sitting here. We went to school because, we are what we are today, because education was subsidized when I was growing up. My father had only primary 6 education. My mother never went to school. I am what I am today thanks to subsidized education. If that is multiplied all over the country, most of the issues we are discussing, I say most, not all, we are discussing today about Nigeria, those issues would have been resolved. What is oil? Japan has no oil, but Japan has invested its resources in education and training. Other countries don't have oil. Why should oil become an obsession? Is because we have a ruling elite that is extremely, I'm sorry to say, indolent and irresponsible. Because education and training will resolve all this.
There's something I said that a man would not want those he leads to challenge his authority. Now, would you look at it as being deliberate, the starving the educational sector of funds, in fear that they might challenge how much money, as I said, how much money that's come into the coffers?
I have not seen it in that perspective. But if anyone who calls himself a leader, a true leader, is afraid of those he's leading, then it's not what it tells. Because any leader or leadership that knows that his own period is just for a period, a temporary time, knows that he will hand over. Why do we keep talking about the present youth as a leader of tomorrow? He has just talked about Japan or South Korea of yesterday. Can we talk of a Nigeria of yesterday the way he talked about South Korea and Japan, if we do not have that education so that the future leaders of Nigeria will be in position to make Nigeria something like we're talking about concerning Japan and Korea? If we set our educational standards right, it is not about, you said something about building schools. It is not about building schools and schools and schools here. It is the quality of the schools that we have. Because I heard the president one time, the current president, he had just been barely in office, and we started hearing 9 new universities set up. My brother, what has happened to the existing ones? To what extent are those schools, the old universities, or if you like, higher institutions, to what extent have they been well funded? As I'm sitting here, I must recount one experience I had. I went for my first degree only hearing about computer. But when I was doing my second degree, I had a course that was talking about computer. And my lecturer was giving us the hope that we were going to the lab to really have a feel of the computer. And I was very excited. I was in high spirits.
Second degree.
Yes, in the University of Ibadan. I was excited, anxiously looking forward to that day that I would go and touch the computer and see how it works. The day came, we went. What did we see? We were all disappointed. Because all of us that moved to that lab were having the same attitude and spirit, only to get there to find out what we were doing in the classroom was better than what we were doing in the lab.
I don't understand.
All the equipment that were called computers were written off. The attendants were telling us, if you do this, put this one here, put that one here, this is what you will get. That's what we were doing in the classroom. But what I'm saying is that the schools have not been well funded. The facilities are obsolete. Rather than building new ones, let us bring up the old ones. You can expand them. And therefore, the people you are thinking of sending to the new ones, let them come into those old ones and be part of the population there. One lecturer can handle as many students as the ones you want to disperse to the 9 new universities. That will save resources. I went to
I don't know if the lecturers here will
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Will agree to that.
On this issue of education.
excuse me,
Okay.
let me land, because I know what I suffered when I was in school. I know what I enjoyed when I was in school.
But there are
At
some
that
people
time-
who are
at
still
that-
suffering. The
At that
polytechnic
time,
students
excuse
who
me,
have been
at that
home.
time, I said I was suffering. But today, I can tell you that the ones who are in school today are having what they call grandmother of suffering. No undergraduate today tells you he's happy. I was in school. When I wake up, I just go out, go and have my bath and leave the hostel. Somebody was going to sweep my room, dress my bed. When I come back, I would see that the bedsheet had been removed. I replaced a new one. And I would get ready again to the calf to go and eat the food that somebody had prepared for me. Today, every student is his own cook, his own domestic servant, everything. Such a student, what time does he have to study? But the leadership of today, most of them went to school, like he said, with heavy subsidy. Most of them went on scholarship, which they did not even pay, they are refunded. Most of them, when they come out, they are sent on courses here and there, free of charge, sponsored by government. They have car loans, which they did not pay for. They did not refund. I'm saying it with all sincerity. But today's student is made to bear this brunt. There is even no hope for him when he comes out.